A little mixer, that's all I need.
A mixer, and you see your levels for everyone that's talking.
Yeah.
You know? You say one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Yeah.
As I said, I had a computer. So iMac 7 crap. And I'm just ready to spin this thing.
Yep.
And
Okay.
so there's somebody trying to
Yeah, website guy, yeah.
fucking hell, you need a mop in here, don't you?
Yeah, I'll sort that.
It's fucking crap, bringing one.
Alright. Now just have a... Before we start, put these on so you can just see
Where I am at,
and,
level to talk
and
at.
what kind of... You can... All the noises, the little noises, if we start moving around...
Yeah, if we're shifting in our fucking seats, it's very ghosty sound, isn't it?
It's this room, this shitty room. If we could go upstairs and there's carpet, or even in this room, is good room.
Can you not put an effect on it to get rid of that, no?
You can put a bit of compression, but makes it sound really funny. So,
Yeah, we should go in the other room and just open the blind. And then if anybody knocks, you just go, right, I fucking see you, mate.
compression.
Yeah, see, that's...
Done something?
Rain is really prevalent there.
Yeah. Let's just take these chairs into this room.
Yeah.
It is miles, but now I'm just on this anyway. So oops.
We're just on what?
Onto... I'll just lock that door.
Back in 49 minutes.
It's a pity I didn't have two headphones and mics going, because it's just better when you can hear. You sort of, it's like when you're in the studio, you can sort of play on the sound of your voice.
Is that the Gold Coast?
Yeah.
That's cool.
The funny thing about that is I bought it off the net. You mean that picture up there?
Did Reeve get that, did he?
Yeah.
Where did he get that?
Jamie Meyer. Five Promotions.
Les Sherry. Everyone's going on about this guy as if he's fucking amazing. I don't know.
Yeah, he's got a good winning streak.
Nice.
He's a local.
He's some tour or whatever. Yeah.
That's better.
So you're just in the phone now?
Yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't leave it hanging there. You'd fucking drop off.
Yeah.
No, but I'd push back to the desk. He's up there. Man, remember these videos had camera takes? Was it DV?
Oh yeah.
High
Shit, yeah. That says, I just threw away one that said naughty that had my, like, really old one.
Oh, this fun. Look at the front. He is huge.
Yeah. Bit of noise. What's going on here?
You need a thing to sit down on that.
Yeah.
Can't get this on tape.
He's,
Do you want this? I'll try not to do that.
so here we are.
Incredible words of
Got my
wisdom.
mate here. What's your name, mate?
Carlos. we're podcasting.
So we were just talking before about. Well, see, it's raining on the Gold Coast today, so everyone on the Gold Coast is pretty much doing nothing. And there's a big cyclone about, and I think it's missed us. There's been a lot of rain. What's your... what are you...
They're just staring at you like it's a sale.
Yeah.
Come on, sign the deal, baby.
So tell me a story. What's happening this week?
Well,
Carlos.
there's a thing that's happened on a train in Paris that's made the news. I don't know whether you've seen that. A bunch of Chelsea fans were heading to a home or back from a very prestigious soccer match, and a black man tried to get on the train, and they shoved him off the train. He tried to get on again, they shoved him off again. Every time he tried to step on, he was just getting pushed back, and then they all started chanting, we're racist, that's the way we like it. And there's a lot of criticism of the club now, because they've actually had a player that was embroiled in a racist, uproar about a year or two ago, and the club backed and supported that player, and so people are saying, well, this is the outcome of that, and people are saying how shocking it is, and yeah, well, it was nasty and it was rubbish, but I've been I've been reading a couple of pages of a book last night called 100 Years of Lynchings, and the stories in that were horrific. It's the book that Muhammad Ali read that led him to be very militant anti-white, and there's some stories in there about people who were just handed to the police, handed by the police to mobs, and then murdered by whole towns in America back in the late 1800s. Wow! And you hear about that stuff, and that and you just think, wow, it's actually in a way, it's good that people are shocked now by just people shouting nonsense on a train, because the way it was like what ISIS are doing today. Yeah. What ISIS are doing today was happening to non-believers is what Americans were doing to non-whites 150 years ago. Yeah.
And mate, what I reckon is funny is that I think we've still got a pack mentality of, I think, whether it's ISIS, religious groups, these footballers. If you put a bunch of blokes together, we turn into this.
They, as I said, will burn and lynch people. They will laugh at disabled people and attack people on basis of nothing, and feel I think there's maybe the security that is felt today within a mob is that, hey, I'm only one of 100 people. My face isn't going to get picked out on the cameras, Whereas before it was, I'm safe in a mob because if we get attacked, we'll outnumber them. Yeah. Whereas there's always this safety thing in a mob, and everyone feels it, And probably the least secure people in a mob are the ones right in the front of the mob, because they're thinking, oh, I'm going to be on the news. Yeah. At the back of the mob, they're all chanting, starting the horrible chants, and the guys at the front are probably going, we're in this mob, but those guys are going to get banned for life from the soccer stadium. And you've got got those guys in ISIS who are doing violent stuff, but they're all wearing masks. It's
when before all this big Middle Eastern stuff came about, I was working at in Surfers Paradise. There's the Q1 building, a really big high Q1 building, and there used to be a car rental place on the same block, and it was just pretty much a vacant block, this whole, just this piece of dirt in Surfers Paradise. Yeah. And I worked in this car lot, and I had to hire out little 50cc scooters and wash cars. It's just a cheap, dodgy car yard. Yeah. And I remember then, it would have been the year 1998, and I'd just moved from Sydney, and I lived in Ashfield, which is a big Vietnamese area. And I remember being a white boy in Brisbane, moving to this Vietnamese area in Sydney, going, whoa, whoa, whoa. But I soon learned that these people are all the same, just visually everything was different. But they didn't have this underlying religious thing, and I was soon at ease. But my landlady was a lady from Iran. She was a Christian lady, and I had to drive to her house in Campsie. So I swear I was this white guy from Brisbane. That's all But now I'm driving through ladies with burqas, and I remember clearly telling my mum over the phone, like, wow, there's these people wearing these full head coverings. There was no news to back it up for me, so I just thought they were different people from another part of the world. I didn't even know where they were from the world. But the lady, her name was Mona, I'd see her every Wednesday and pay the rent. She was a Christian. She was telling me why they escaped Iran, because the Islamic population of Islam was really scary to them, and they escaped because they were taking girls off the street and making them do things in clubs all the time. She told me a bit about it, but even then it wasn't big news, so I wasn't really hanging on to every word of her story, just thinking that sounds just crazy.
It's just something you look back on and think that was my first.
Yeah, but that was it.
Perception.
Going back to when I was working at the car yard. We'd often get... So this was before any of that Cronulla riot stuff that happened in Australia, before any of this 9/11 gear happened. I'd often rent out scooters to all these tourists and have to teach them. And I remember 2 times that these I'd always call them soccer players from Sydney. They were like guys from the Middle East. They were only in their early 20s coming to get scooters, but they were always boys. It was like they were all cousins, and there were about 8 to 10 of them.
Yeah.
And they had remember in the old days when dudes would shave lines in their hair?
Yeah. Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, and heaps of gold, and they were clearly these Middle Eastern sort of dudes. They're super, what's the word? They got lots of...
Bling.
Yeah, but they're not aggressive, but like, you know, it's me, mate, you know.
Machismo.
Yeah, but they wouldn't look you in the eye, and I thought, man, the problem here is they've got no girls around them. I always thought there's just dudes. It's like a footballers' weekend. You take some footballers that have just won the final, and you put them in a hotel anywhere in the world. All destruction. There'll be fights. There'll be grabbing chicks' asses. There'll be all sorts of things like this. This is what I thought once I went. These guys are something about these guys that.
Yeah.
You know, they're part of that. And that's now there's all this sort of bullshit about ISIS and what. And I still think the same thing. They're in a religion that is separate, different to the Vietnamese people who have if they were religious, they've got women mixed in between it. So my opinion of this is there's no women mixed in between all these lads. It's just mayhem.
Yeah.
And it's only going to...
So
mob mentality everywhere.
ISIS is what's happened when guys stop seeing women walking around.
And they don't have any beer.
Yeah, no beer.
They can't drink beer and eat bacon.
No bikinis.
Well, it's got to be...
some heads off.
It's got to be said. Where's the spice of life? Seriously.
Let's cut some heads off. I haven't seen a naked woman in 9 years.
I was listening to this thing the other day about because a lot of the internet comes out of America, so the Google stats for all these, like Saudi Arabia, like what are people searching for in Saudi Arabia via Google?
Yeah.
Loads of porn. It's like people are people. They're all searching the same stuff as us. So you can put this religious thing on people.
Yeah.
And they're going to church or whatever they do, and they think they're being good. They're passing all their tests in their mob, but basically they've still got the same thoughts as us. And they'll see us partying. How pissed off would you be?
But you know what? Everybody grows up with that. You know what I mean? There's a comedian, Kevin Bridges, a Scottish guy, and he talks about growing up in Scotland. And he says, you know, parties in Scotland were, you know, somebody had an empty house. Everyone would get like 4 cans of beer. Girls would be dressed in tracksuits and gold chains, the same as the guys, which I grew up in as well. And if a can went missing, it would be uproar. You know, there's a can thief. You know, it was just the most depressing thing. You know what I mean?
I saw Dave drinking that can.
And there'd be an investigation, like it was a Cluedo. You know what I mean? Over a can missing.
It's the moral test.
But that was growing up. But like you'd say, you see kids in the States, and it's Chad Hogan's got a free house tonight, and there's women jumping off the roof naked. There's bands playing. He says you grew up always imagining that the better thing was somewhere else. Yeah. And that's what these guys are growing up with. You know, and. You know, there are probably kids on the Gold Coast that live in 20 k's from Surfers Paradise, thinking the better thing is miles away. Yeah, you know, the thing that you want when you're that age is, you know, constant frustration that we grow up with, I suppose. You know, but it's a funny. There's
got to be something said about. Imagine watching people on the internet if you were living in a. Oh, going back to the train thing though. Yeah. So obviously the white guys were being dickheads. Clearly. Yeah. But they were being dickheads probably because of the things they've seen on the news about this African guy, or the African guys in their hometown in the UK have been acting like mobs too. So they just see this guy and go, "We're giving it back to you right now because
we feel we can do it. Yeah.
You've been hassling my sister." Or you know, it's a wild place, mate.
It's funny what you said earlier about like being surrounded by Vietnamese, because I lived in England until I was about 10, 11, and then I went to Ireland, and suddenly I was the black guy in a white man's country. You know, I was the guy going around going, "All right, guys, how's it going today?" And everyone's going, "Come here, you!" Boom, fight. I was fighting everybody. That's how I learned to fight.